Welcome to the Present Fathers Podcast. This is the show that focuses on climbing the mountain of fatherhood together. We believe that dads matter. That's why this show is for you. So gear up, dads. Get ready. It's time to start climbing. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Present Fathers Podcast. Our guest tonight is John Michael Clark. This is a repeat visit for him, and we are really excited. John Michael Clark specializes in helping men with family leadership and sex and marriage. He's on a mission to help guys lead with strength and love. He cuts through the cliches to be a spiritual leader and gets specific to help men gain confidence, earn the admiration of their wives and children, and lead like Jesus. His unique approach to coaching brings a simplicity, humor, practicality, and strength that men appreciate and respond to. Welcome back, John Michael. How are you doing, man?
George, what's up, brother? Guys, thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're pumped because last time Justin wasn't here, so I'm pumped that we got the full group with you now, and he can soak in some of the family captain truths tonight. So with that, let's go back to the basics, and why don't you tell us about the program and how you coach men to be better leaders of their families?
Yeah, man. So the program is all about me giving myself what I wish I had had 10 years ago. I loved my wife. We were doing well as far as I knew, and everything was fine. And she would have said the same thing. But I just had this sense that there was more. If somebody said, well, what's the problem? I said, I don't know exactly. Looking back, I'm very thankful for the Holy Spirit's direction to show me that there's more. You can go to another level. There's better than fine. There's better than happily married. It's what I now call ecstatically married. And I found that when you start to approach that level 10, the Lord shows you it goes to 100, which is good news, not a discouraging thing. Or you start to approach level 100 and the Lord says, hey, it goes to 1,000 actually. So I don't know where I'm at in that chart at this point, but I know I'm not stopping. I know that the sweeter it gets, the sweeter it gets. And Natalie and I both are saying, yes, Lord. So, well, that's a different conversation too. But in all areas of life, as well as the bedroom. So it started with, a journey of what does it look like to lead well? Because I knew our issues were, particularly when it came down to this whole headship and submission thing, I knew there was something missing there. All I ever knew was like, hey, we're 50-50 partners, I guess. I don't really know what it looks like beyond that. And then the other thing was sex and marriage. I wanted more frequency. I wanted more freedom. And I didn't like how it seemed like my wife is really the keeper of the sex. I'm the seeker of the sex. If I try and do all the right things, if I try and wash the dishes, instead of be the family captain, if I can be the family butler, maybe she'll admire me, maybe she'll be aroused by me, maybe she'll want to have more sex with me. And all your listeners are like, yeah, I've tried that too. Yeah, I know it didn't work, but the Lord eventually showed me, hey, big boy, you can have everything you want. The respect, the admiration, the sex life. And I'm going, great, thank you, sir. And he says, you'll just have to change as a man to have it. But I was on board for that. Like, I wasn't like, oh, never mind then. I was genuinely wanted to walk in the fullness of what God had for me as a man. And that's a process, of course, but that's what I did. And after Natalie and I started walking and enjoying the ecstasy of all that, I'm going, praise God. If I got the log out of my own eye, now I can help my brothers to get the speck out of theirs. And that's what the Family Captain's all about. So we got multiple ways and programs and coaching where I work with guys to transform their lives. And the flagship thing that we do is the Family Captain Elite, which, of course, George, you know all about. And guys come through, they're like, yeah, things are good, things are fine. And we just take off and accelerate them in mission and vision and Christ-like leadership. No beating your chest. No, there's a new sheriff in town, little lady, none of that. But really focusing on your self-leadership so that your wife gets to enjoy the fruit. Your kids get to enjoy the fruit, and you get to enjoy the fruit.
Yeah, so I have been through the program. Absolutely loved it. I went into it thinking our marriage was pretty good, and we're 7, 8. And realized pretty quickly how blind I was in a lot of areas of my own life and needed to level up, as you say. And the thing that I want to just reemphasize for you that you make very clear right up front with the guys is this is a work on you program. This isn't a fix your wife program. And, it really is solely centered around, like you say, become the best man your wife has ever known. And if you work from that starting point, then everything you're doing is personal growth and personal improvement based off of biblical truths. And, it doesn't get into like the he said, she said type of situation. It's literally just be better, And so I think if people are a little turned off at first, that's don't twist this into something it's not. It's very pure. And John Michael, I will say, having worked with you through the program, you have a gift for really discerning people's different situations and applying the right wisdom to each different scenario. And I've seen it over and over through all the different meetings we had with all the guys, and just being able to really cut through to where each man was at in his own life and all of the context, and giving practical advice that really helped make a lot of improvement very quickly. So that's my little plug for you as a graduate of the program.
Thank you,
And
brother.
yeah, man, I loved it. I'm still learning a lot, and just appreciate what you're doing. So
It's such a joy. It's such a blessing. The point you made about the self leadership and the work on you, if anything, I think that's more of a turnoff for most guys, because they're like, well, yeah, but I really want to get her straight. To which I say, I know, but here's the principle, brother, that's obvious to those who have walked it out, and that is the feminine will respond to the masculine. Or let me say it more specifically, the feminine is already responding to the masculine, for better or worse. And the family captain, we just make sure it's for better.
yeah, it's pretty obvious too once you apply some of the basics. Um, and within a couple weeks, you can already start to notice differences in most cases. I think where she starts responding in a positive way, as opposed to you're doing your job, you're leading. So
Right. And you didn't have an all night conversation about it. You didn't say, let me show you these verses. None of that. Just be the guy. And she's going, well, I have a new husband. Mr. 2.0 showed up. I like this guy. This is interesting. This is different. This is fun. This is loving. Generally speaking, people aren't going to reject bad leadership. Who's this new boss who's amazing, who treats us with compassion and uses his responsibility to take ownership and only uses his authority to do what's best for us? Who's this guy think he, like, we just welcome it. We go, praise God. What a great scenario we got.
I love that. So, John Michael, we've talked a lot about spouses and relationships. Do you get into leadership with children as well? Do you find that being part of the family captain has to do with leading your children as well as leading the entire family?
Absolutely. So the primary thing that we see happen with guys is the example that they set in their own self-leadership immediately starts to show up in their children, sometimes even before their wife, because kids are watching their dad and they're wanting to adjust, and they feel the effects, and they're also the warmest. So a wife who might even have some bitterness, might even have some resentment, might even have a grudge from years of whatever wasn't happening, the moment it starts happening, the kid's response is typically yippee, hooray, this is great. Whereas the wife is kind of like, we'll see about that at times. So it's a really easy inroad for a lot of guys. Even with their teenagers, we find ways to flank the grumpy teenager, and we find ways to shepherd them. But yeah, we talk a lot about helping your kids go from one season to the next in life. We build family identity so that each household actually has a thumbprint to say, this is who we are, this is what we're about. So all this comes back into dad's quality time with his kids, and we get practical there as well.
if I can just interject to a little bit of the family culture impacts of it, we just had a guy share a win in the group, um, about his teenage child had some of their friends over, and they were going to
You
do
talking
their
about in the
family.
voyage?
Yeah, and they were going to do their
Okay.
family meeting, and he invited the outside kids to stay and have dinner and
Oh, right, right,
everything.
right.
And it was this
Yes.
amazing thing where the other kids were like, "I'm so jealous your family has this tight knit, identity." And so there's a lot of fruit that comes way beyond just the relationship with your wife, and it really it went. I think the thing that you drive home pretty quickly with the whole work on yourself thing is that fruit extends way beyond through your leadership. And so that was just a great example that literally just happened this week, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and I just want to call that out here.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, it goes back to the if you really want to know how good of a man really is, you go straight to his wife and his kids, right? And so you can really test the fruit of somebody by going to them. And if they're saying he's the best man I know, like you've said, or your kids are saying you're the best daddy ever, and they mean it, and they're wholehearted, and they're happy, and they're smiling, they show all these different fruits. It's 100% the most satisfying thing you will ever have as far as success. It's way better than money, power, any of that stuff. So yeah, these programs, I love seeing your program especially because it's like he said, you have humor, you have realistic conversations. Like a lot of people they'll surface level, oh, you could do this and start with this, and it's like no, get down to the real root, grab the roots out and pull it, right? You fix yourself, and then everything else kind of smooths out after, So I love what
Leadership
you're doing.
is, I'm sorry, Brandon, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Leadership is a gift that heals families. I believe that when I started on this journey, and now I believe it 100-fold. Though one of the things that I find myself doing, and this is the kind of thing I say to Natalie all the time, is like, I tell her, I'm like, I don't say half of what I believe when it comes to how powerful this stuff is, because I don't think anyone would believe me. I think they would think I'm selling something. And in all fairness to them, I am. But there's many days where I wish I wasn't. Then I would grab everyone by the freaking throat, and I would shove it down their throat as well and say, listen, this is good. This is true. This is beautiful. I can't overstate the power of a godly family culture. I can't overstate the significance of building something beautiful. I can't overstate the depth of an amazing marriage and children who are secure, and all the, like you guys are talking about, the collateral advantages, as I call them, stuff that I would never predict when a guy comes on board and like, hey, we know we're going to get these outcomes. That's not really up for question. But what's cool is going to see what the Lord does with this. What else happens that we could have never predicted? It's just, it doesn't stop. But this is how the Lord has set up the world. It started with a family. It's going to finish with a family. It's family here in the middle. And it comes down to the man who's leading that household. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So, John Michael, what do you think are the most common pitfalls that most men are falling into, where they think they're doing the right thing, like you said, oh, if I just be the family butler, maybe she'll be more. So, what are some of those things? Because I think a lot of people may not even realize that they're doing the wrong thing in the first place, right? So that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stuff that you guys have heard before. It's the sin that we get honest straight from Adam. It's the passivity. I want to defer responsibility. Lord, it's not me. It's this woman that you gave. Actually, it's y'all owe me an apology, come to think of it. And then, of course, modern culture, and I won't blame culture. It's the snake. We're not warring with flesh and blood. So it's Satan. It's the spirit of the age constantly beating this message into us of what's called equality, really also meaning sameness instead of actual equal in value and worth, which all Christians agree with. But role and distinction matter, and our wives have suffered for it. Christian women are anxious. Christian women are depressed. Christian men are anxious. Christian men are depressed. And the lies we've been sold about marriage and partnership and 50-50, like, they make everybody miserable. On paper, nobody can argue with them, but that's only because they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know how good it is and how manly it feels, how good it feels to take that burden on. So I rejected that forever. I was passive, but I got to hide behind Natalie's competency. And many husbands do the same. Like, my wife's amazing. She's powerful. He seems as though he's Mr. Perfect Feminist, but he seems great because he's so promotive of her, but really he's hiding behind her. She's a shield, and she is standing between him and the world, and it should be just the opposite. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That was a hard one for me to swallow, to actually realize, oh, I'm really just a coward. And I'm bragging on Natalie's competency. Although she is competent, godly, wise, wonderful, and beautiful, there's a way for that to show up as my helper, as my wife, not as the head of the household, not to be another husband in the house.
Yeah, so I think that was something I love about what Brandon said. Even if you are the best man to other people, being a real man and being a true leader, it's a constant battle. It's something you're always going to keep doing. So, you could be the best, but you need to continue to improve. Even if you're the best, you can be better. And I think that's a great point, and I think that's something cool about your program. So I like that fact.
So John Michael, if you don't mind, go into your 3 legs of leadership in case there's a new person, because it's an amazing concept, and I even apply it personally because it's so good. And just go into what kind of leadership qualities a man needs to work on.
Yeah. So I've never been able to hold on to all the definitions of leadership that I've heard. There's like the 97 precepts and the 21 concepts, and I'm like, man, those are super good. I just am not ever going to do anything with them. So thankfully, I don't take credit for it because the Holy Spirit gave it to me. I remember where I was standing. It dropped in me like a quarter in a phone booth. I don't know if all your listeners know what a phone booth is, but they're these things from the past. And when the quarter hit, it hit, it was like in there. But the three legs of leadership, the way we define leadership, are compassion, responsibility, and authority. If you're watching us, you can see like this rudder here. So on the three legs, as we're elevating this platform, we want all three legs to be balanced, but we define them in a very particular way. We define compassion as you love your family a lot and they know it. Not just, oh, I told them I love them and I mean it, but can they feel that? There's a warmth and there's a care for them. They're being nurtured. You're gentle with your wife in particular and your children. Responsibility, we define that as you take ownership for all of the outcomes. It doesn't mean that every single thing that ever happens is your fault. It just means that you're the one who always goes, this is on me. So as the captain of a ship, if the ship runs aground, that captain is fired. That's happened multiple times actually in the past decade in the Navy. In one of the cases, the captain wasn't even on board, but guess who lost their job? Because it's his ship, and well, you didn't train him well enough apparently. So we take ownership of all the outcomes, and this helps us to not be a victim anymore. This helps us to not be like, well, this woman you gave me or the kids, but it forces our creativity. It forces our dependence on our head to say, Lord, help me, instead of, I quit. And then the third leg, and this is the leg that culture would push back upon, and unfortunately even the church, but there is no leadership without authority. So we don't talk about authority with any kind of apology. And we define authority, again, in a particular way. Authority is the power. The power to what? Authority is the power to do what's best for your family. So this would apply anywhere. Like, everybody knows their boss has authority over them. If he takes ownership, wow, that's a surprise and that's a blessing. If he's compassionate, that's great too. We see this in all areas of life. We recognize that leadership means authority. But there's this one environment where when it comes to leadership, we want this guy to be compassionate. Melvin, you better be compassionate. Yes, okay. Melvin, you better take ownership of all the outcomes. It's all your fault, also, is what Melvin's told. Melvin goes, okay. And then Melvin says, do I have any actually power to accomplish? No, you don't. You can't. You can care a lot and you can try real hard, but no, you don't have like actual ability to move things
Just be a
forward.
servant leader, man.
Just if you were a better servant leader, Melvin, maybe everyone would follow you automatically.
It's like the Queen of England. You're a figurehead. I like
Exactly. You're the fall guy. And it's not that Christians don't believe in authority. It's just that where they place it. They do believe there's authority in a marriage. They just won't say it out loud. They hide behind the phrase of it's 50-50. Well, anytime a guy tells me his marriage is 50-50, me and his wife look at each other, and this is hypothetical, and she and I both know better. And this is the lie that the church has been pretending for a while now. It's 50-50. It's not. It's not. There's no such thing. And somebody's going to defer, somebody's going to submit. And of course, we reject the extreme that Melvin is this guy that I pick on, this fictional character. Melvin is me. Melvin is the flesh. But Melvin wants to reject his responsibility by jumping to an extreme caricature and going, I guess you just want to drag women around by their hair. To which I would say, first of all, that's a private bedroom conversation for every couple, and I'm not going to go there. But second of all, no, of course not. We hate sin. We reject sin. The scripture makes no place for it. So any abusive example you have from some jackass who taught it improperly or a church who modeled it wrong, we reject it. We reject both sins, Melvin. We reject the tyrant and we reject the passive wimp. Which one are you, brother? Which one is most of Christian culture? Well, you got to be careful with that stuff. You don't need to be careful with the word of God. You need to be obedient to the word of God. And when you are, everyone will actually thrive. But if your wife is not thriving, if she is not freaking flourishing, brother, if you're not a man on fire, excited about your family culture, your family identity, if it's just a place you got to go and try and keep mama happy, good news. Good news. All that can be changed by walking in obedience to the Lord.
Yeah, and the other thing you share a lot about is, that leadership that's using all three legs effectively. So you're a balanced leader, who is, you have the authority through compassion, right? You're not just a tyrant. You create a covering for your family, a shelter that they can reside in, and especially for your wife, that creates an environment where she isn't carrying the weight of the world all the time, and her anxiety isn't just at peak levels because you've put half of the burden on her. And it's not saying that your wife does nothing. That's, again, don't twist what we're saying here. It's, people love to do that these days. They'll take a little snip and cut it up and to make it sound like you're saying something you're not. That's not what we're saying. We are saying
Right.
that the husband has a role, the wife has a role, and together you raise a family that is strong. And to deny either role is a disservice to your children and ultimately their next generation too. And so that's, that's why you get so fired up about it, is because it's the truth. And for too long, we've shied away from that truth. And I think the society we have today is very indicative of, well, the lie is obviously a lie, and it's making a lot of damage. So, the stats right now are just
Let's judge
horrendous.
the fruit.
Divorce, child delinquency and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's the status quo is not working. So maybe, that's something I've even talked about a lot in my own circles, is like, maybe our great grandparents did have it more right. I'm sure they have plenty of flaws, but they didn't seem to struggle with a lot of stuff we are.
Right.
What was different? So.
Yeah, the fruit tells the truth, man. Like, well, I'm going to do it this way. All right, well, your way sucks, as evidenced by the fruit that you're facing. So I'm not mad at you. I'm mad for you. Like, people have been lied to, and it feels like a heavy burden. It's very intimidating at first when a guy hears this. First of all, because right now it's just like, it sounds like theory. It sounds like, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? No, bro, you don't know my wife. All the objections that come up, instead of, even if it's going to be difficult, even if it's going to be challenging, Jesus went to the cross. Why? For the joy that was set before him. You wouldn't think of the cross as a joyful thing, and much has been made about the difference between joy and happiness, but it's the joy of the outcome. So if we were to give our lives for our families, that would actually provide a deep joy. That's like a male fantasy, man. Like, I hope that I can kill 900 ninjas at 3 a.m. And then as I kill the last one, I'm bleeding out and my family's all around and they're like, Dad, we love you. And I'm like, I love you. I'm like, that's a deep joy. It's not the happiest day, but I'm happy to give myself in a provisional way for them. Like, I'm happy to be first in line, and I'm happy to suffer for a purpose, not for nothing, but for a purpose. And when men actually realize, bro, this is your garden, you get to tend it. You've been living in it as an employee, but when you start living in your garden as an owner, it gets exciting. It's actually fun. Like, that's the big piece. It's fun, dude. Your life is the video game. You get to level up your character, and your character is you. Bloop. Oh, he just got some strength points. That's the level up sounding, in case you guys didn't know. He can get better
I'll
at
edit it
guitar.
in post for you.
He can get better
the
at
one-up sound.
romance. Like, he can get better at finances. Like, well, I know the video game gives you the quicker dopamine hit, but this other one leaves a legacy that impacts 1,000 generations. And it will impact your bedroom, and it will impact the boardroom, and it will impact, I don't know, any other room that you and your wife pick. But
yeah, one quick thing that someone said, I forget who it was that said it to me, but it really should drive the point home, is, like you were talking about the fantasy. Oh, I'll die for my family. Every guy says that. Oh, I'll take a bullet for my family. Yeah, but are you going to live for them? And that's where it's the daily leadership, using the 3 legs and a lot of the principles that you teach, that most guys aren't doing. And they don't realize that they're wounding their family by not owning up to that and making a change.
I would die for my family. Cool. Will you wake up with the alarm clock on the first time for your family?
Exactly.
Oh, what does that got to do with anything? Aha. It's got everything to do with everything.
Yeah.
I would rule over man, if I was the president, I'd be the best. Man,
right.
if I was president,
I'd be huge.
Yeah, I'd be huge, first of all. But are you ruling over your household well? Are you ruling over yourself well? Because if you're faithful in little, the Lord's going to add to that. Your influence will grow.
Yeah, and so I actually, this is completely off topic, but with the rise of the internet and the rise of AI and social media and all the things that are not only distractions, but so many answers from so many different places, what advice would you give to fathers to try to find the right answers, and maybe, let's say, leadership or something, that would help their family, that guides them in the right way to find, whatever room they're trying to be in, so to speak?
I don't know if I understand the question, Justin. I'm sorry.
So with so many answers out there right now, my question would be, from your program, what is something that they can use to find the right answers in leading their family in the right direction? I guess is the best way to ask that, if that makes sense.
So not like, the answer to this question would not be listen to the Present Fathers podcast.
I mean, it could be.
Listen to the
That's
Family
actually
Captain
the only
podcast.
answer. Okay, so
Right. I mean, I wanted to
correct.
Like and subscribe, share the video. Thanks. All right.
And that's what I have to say about that. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm struggling to serve you well here, man. I don't know if I'm getting it.
We live in like the age of information overload, I think is what you're trying to say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so,
essentially.
I guess if I'm reading into this, John Michael, like what about your program is cutting through all of that and kind of getting straight
Okay,
to
what in
the
the
heart of it?
program? I'm sorry. That's what I was
Yes.
understanding.
I
My
think
bad.
that's is that what you're asking, Justin?
Yeah, because there's so many different people who are experts on
Oh,
Excellent.
leadership
right, yeah. You see
or
like a
how to
million of them
lead
on
your
Instagram
family
and
I
or
got
how to
you.
be more successful in life,
I was
all
gonna
that stuff.
say, like, well, obviously just follow Andrew Tate and you'll be good to go. Like, so yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
what in
stay
the
off that one.
program, like the secret sauce, and this is real deep. The secret sauce for me, the foundation really is the Bible. Like that's my Sunday school answer, and it's the right answer. But seriously, I mean, I approach those verses and I go, this must mean what it plainly says, instead of, well, that was written to a time and a people and a place for a reason. Yeah, like the whole Bible, and also inspired by the Holy Spirit for us, and it's profitable for us. So I take that approach. I don't do biblical gymnastics to get out of what's plainly spoken. Oh, all of this is good, or Ephesians 5 is good. Well, you got to understand, okay? Diana at the temple and the prostitution. So what it was, okay? See, at the Council of Crimea, when they did the thing with the people and the church fathers and what you'll find is like you lost me.
it's funny
I
how they
want to
gloss over the
be, and
verse
I'm not.
about let your yes mean yes and your no mean no.
Now, see, well, but that's different too, there, Brother George.
Hmm.
So let me explain to you why, why all of my beliefs run countercultural, except for this one vein. Just culture totally loves what I have to believe. Like Christians, aren't you nervous, by the way, when you're in total agreement with what the culture would teach on something? But that is the answer. I go, first of all, to be masculine is something, to be feminine is something. They are both a glory and a joy. God calls them both good. So we want the polarity that the Lord wants: oceans and deserts, masculine and feminine, light and dark, hot and cold. These things are good, and we're being robbed. So we also take the assumption that it's good to be manly, it's good to be masculine, it's good to lead, and that a man can lead in a way where everybody wins. So that's the foundation. Without that, I am just another freaking voice. Like, who cares? Like, well, this guy says it that way, or this guy says it that way. Like, well, if they're getting anything right, it's because they're teaching biblical principle. Whether or not they're using chapter and verse is irrelevant. If they're getting beautiful and glorious fruit, there's heathens who do that. There are. There's people in the manosphere who do an excellent job, who do a better job than pastors do when it comes to teaching on marriage and what it should look like. And they think that we came from a mud puddle. They think we came from monkeys that crawled out of, I don't know, they came from bunnies who came from, I don't know what the first critter was that crawled out of that puddle. They got hit by lightning in Neverland forever ago. But I mean, these guys think we're just a bunch of mammals out here humping each other, and they're still getting gender dynamics more biblical than a lot of the churches. But the answer is the word. The answer is like, it's there. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But forever, I couldn't see it. Forever, I'm just like, I wish the Bible was more plain. I wish there was more here. And then as I started going that journey, I couldn't unsee it anymore. I'm like, look at this. Look at this. It was here. I was in denial. I was raised in I was raised in and baptized in the waters of feminism, not with anyone taking a deliberate action, godly parents. And at the same time, here I am with the same misunderstandings, with a wife who has the same misunderstandings. And any of this language becomes triggering to all of us because we make false assumptions.
So do you mind if I get a little bit personal, and can you talk about just in your own family, even before you were kind of running the program and working with others, how drastically different things are for you? And then I guess you could also go into how you've seen that replicated with all the men you've worked with.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish Natalie was in here. She would be the better one to answer it because she has a much better memory than me. But as far as the turnaround, it was like I said, it wasn't so much that our marriage was at a 2 and then it went to a 10. It was at a 7, 8. And then it went to, again, like 500. I didn't know what I didn't know. So we certainly got out of the whole, we're just partners. We're just life partners. I happen to have a penis. You happen to have a vagina. But that's the only difference between us. Everything else is just preferences. So we certainly got away from that nonsense, and I learned how to be the man, which foundationally is responsibility. And I learned what that looked like. But the turnaround really is just the joy and the depths of polarity. I talked to you guys about this in the voyage recently, George. I said, man, if there is a downside to polarity between husband and wife, I haven't found it yet. And I will. I will say if I find one, but I haven't. The more extreme Natalie and I get in masculinity and femininity, the more I want. The more I'm like, this is amazing. I feel like a king. And Natalie feels like she's loved and cherished and taken care of. And she's soft and she's feminine. And the guys in the chat are, I shouldn't have looked. I looked at the wrong time. So, I mean, the personal turnaround stuff, like we had our bickerings where I was starting in the beginning, George, to learn things, but I had no wisdom. I had no guidance with any of it. I just knew I was learning something and I'm excited about it. And when I know something's right, I'm all in. I'm all in. And I will tell you about it until you believe. And that could be with anything, big or small, important or non-important. So I didn't have any wisdom to navigate. I'm just like, baby, I'm learning this. I'm seeing this. And look, I mean, this verse plainly says, and how could we not? And this one too, and this one too, and this one too, and this one too. And oh yeah, all these are New Testament. So you can throw out that argument that's coming next. Like, well, God was a different God in the Old Testament, which is a lie. But anyway, like all this is here. And then of course, her responses were all the trained responses. Well, I just, but we're equal. Like, yes, we're equal in value and worth, and our roles are different. I will be having 0 babies throughout this marriage. I guarantee it. But what I will do is I will take ownership and I'll take responsibility. A wife is afraid a lot of times that she's going to lose, that she's afraid that he'll lead exclusively with the leg of authority, which is why in 2 Peter, 1 Peter chapter 2, somebody check me on that. It's why he tells wives, you can be like Sarah, who, forget calling Abraham Lord. Like, I don't know any wife who's ready for that. But if you don't fear anything that is frightening, because it's a woman's fears that causes her to take action. So I'm afraid of this thing, so now I'm going to control this thing. I'm afraid you're going to do something wrong with the finances, so I've got the finances. And we go, okay, baby, you're better at that stuff anyway, says Melvin, who doesn't want to have the responsibility of keeping track of the bills. So we had all that. Natalie ran the finances, and I hid behind, she's better at that. It's literally addition and subtraction. It's not calculus. It's literally addition and subtraction. But Natalie's better with all that. But she's got to feel the pressure of it all. So that was something that changed. It wasn't one thing. It was everything. And as I kept finding, I'm like, this is pressure. This isn't the right pressure either. There's a feminine glory. There's a feminine strength. But the feminine strength doesn't try to be masculine. It really is a feminine glory. And she's been able to walk in that more fully. She lives a life of surrender now. And she goes, I'm loved. I have a head. I have a covering, which is exactly what men can do, of course, with the Lord. The Lord is my shepherd. I'm so glad I'm not the top of the food chain.
I love that about, especially, let's touch on the responsibility a little bit more, because a lot of guys, they almost treat their wives like, and you'll hear a lot of women say this, but they'll say, they'll almost treat their wives like moms. Like they're literally doing everything under the house, and the dad or the husband's just like, well, I mean, it's their job. So again, shirking the responsibility. So I was guilty of this in some aspects, like with the finances. And then I understood, just like you said, that this was a burden. And not only that, but when I give that to her, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. I have no way to predict and protect. And I have no way to control the narrative whatsoever. So me being involved and learning and working with her in the finances allowed me to just take it over. Like I just completely took over our finances. And now she's like, are we good, honey? I said, hey, we're great. And if it's not, it's, hey, let's cut back a little bit for a couple of weeks, X this, X that, and then we're great. And we've, for 15 years, we've been flawless. And so, and that's like you said, when you take that responsibility, yes, it is a weight, but it's a good weight. It's just like any other weight training. It becomes light, and you're more strong. The strength, the power is there, and then you're just able to lift it, and it's not a burden to you. And your wife, it was a burden. It was just like you said, it was more anxiety, something else to worry about on top of being a nurturer for the kids. So when she's focused on that, she can't focus on the kids, or she can't focus on anything that she wants or strives for. It's strictly on what can I do to serve my family, and then it's just that's all she does is serve. There's nothing outside of that. And so the responsibility is such an important thing. Can you give some of these guys listening maybe just a couple ideas of ways they can start improving in the responsibility leg?
The way I describe it is there's this huge pile of debris, and there's big rocks, there's huge chunks in it, there's smaller rocks, and there's sand. The thing that you need to do is you need to go move the big rocks. That's what you were built for. That's what you were made for. So start by identifying what are the biggest rocks? What are the things that it's just overwhelming to your wife. I'm thinking about the guy who their 18-year-old was still sleeping in their bed, a special needs son. And that was just the kind of thing that we tried. You always find the we. Hey, babe, let's try to do this. Let's try to do that. They always want to lump her in, make her responsible, and make her accountable, instead of let her be your helper, but you are the guy. You're the point man, and you feel that pressure. You feel like if it doesn't happen, it's because you failed. That doesn't make you a failure. Identity in Christ makes you secure, so you're not worried about failing at anything. Even if you fail, not a failure. You're a child of God. You're loved dearly as a son. But that guy who for 18 years, he's like, yeah, we can't get him out of our bed. And then by the time he had finished 12 weeks in the family captain, his son was out and in his room, and he and his wife were able to make love again because their 18-year-old son is no longer in their bedroom. It's identifying what is the thing that's just burdensome to her. What is the thing that's burdensome to the household? For some guys, it is the budget. For John Michael, that was a big first step for us, because I wasn't like just handing her $100,000 every month either. Like, hey, whatever, however you figure it out. That wouldn't have been that much pressure. But we were in a very, very difficult season financially. Whose responsibility is that? Well, everybody's a team. Nice try, Melvin. Men are the responsible one to provide for their households. If any one of us ends up homeless in a box on the side of the road, nobody's going to look at our wife and go, dang, she really dropped the ball there. Who are they looking at? And why? Because it's right. That is the role of a man. We are a protector, provider, and a leader. This is what we were made for. It's what we're built for. So as you look around, you just keep asking, what's best and what's next? What's the big rock? Your wife can move sand. Your kids can move sand and smaller rocks. Well, I just want to be helpful. I appreciate you being helpful. But you don't want the President of the United States coming to cut your grass, do you? I don't. I'm going, Joe, first of all, I don't
You can't
think
even
you're
finish a sentence,
able.
so
But I prefer you can serve me best by leading me well. That's what loving leadership does. That's the only way I'm ever okay with using the phrase servant leader, because usually it's just code for family butler. But if we mean servant leader, if we actually meant, and no one does, but if we actually meant I will serve you with leadership. George Washington served his troops by leading well. The president should serve the nation by leading well, not by, I'm going to come to every American's home and wash dishes to show you I'm a servant leader. Like, bro, you're an idiot. Get back to the White House, govern. Husbands like, oh, baby, can I this, can I that, can I this, can I that? There's a time and a place for all that. But most guys have been brainwashed into, that is leadership. Homie, no, it's not. It's not. It's mostly servitude, and it's mostly people pleasing, and it's mostly cowardice. So you've got to identify in your own household. For me, the first step was the budget. Another thing could just be the discipline of the kids. Do the children not honor mom when she speaks? Like, Bubba, you've got to solve it. And I don't mean just snap on them tonight. I'm talking systematically weed this out of your household and out of your children for their good, for your wife's good, for everybody's good. It's screen time. Man, my wife's addicted to her phone. How do I get her off her phone? Buddy, be more interesting than her phone. What is Instagram giving her that you're not? Like, it all depends on what you can identify as the big rock and the big thing. Like, what's the next thing? And if you look at the whole pile, you get overwhelmed. But you just go, I'm going to move that freaking rock. That's going to be big. But eventually you start moving all this stuff and the water starts trickling through and you go, ooh. And the more time goes by, more water starts flowing. And eventually, like, the river is fully unlocked. Everything's flourishing. Everything's green. And if this sounds idealistic, again, like, this is why I don't talk this way that much, because I just don't think people believe it. I don't think enough people have seen it. I don't think there are enough examples of it. I don't think there are enough marriages that people go, sign me up for that. But we should, and we've got to start somewhere. Did I answer you, Brandon, or do you feel
Yes,
like
the distinctions, especially with the rocks, was flawless. I love that, and that's something I'll be thinking on for a while. So, great job for sure, Dustin. I think you had something.
It's also code, Brandon, to lift heavier weights. Get ready.
I do even lift pro. That's right. Yeah, that's a really helpful analogy. I like thinking about that because sometimes I'll get caught in the nitty gritty, and then it's hard to lead when you're so focused on little details. So get to the big rocks first, and then worry about the details. I like that.
I'll give an example of me being a Melvin who hid behind Natalie. It's a really interesting example. So for the majority of our marriage, I didn't even know how to run the dishwasher. And I've come to find out that's like one of the simplest things to run. I still can't. I mean, in my defense, our washer and dryer, I think, are complicated. But I can't really run either of them. And I never do. But here's my point. Early in our marriage, I didn't do any of that stuff. But it wasn't because I was doing anything else. It wasn't because I was moving big rocks. It was because I was doing nothing. I went to work. Hey, I'm providing. Okay? You're welcome. That was it. So I didn't do anything. Whereas now, I still hardly ever do any like household kind of tasks, but I'm lifting big freaking rocks all the freaking time. And Natalie sees that, and she's grateful, and she's the beneficiary of it. Now, I do know how to load the dishwasher now. I regularly participate in stuff like I'll grab the broom in the kitchen. I'm helping Melvin, who's listening right now. Like, I bet this guy. Natalie's chained to the water heater right now in Melvin's mind. She's not. She gets a coupon once a week to leave the house. She can go wherever she wants as long as it's only 5 minutes away. I'm a very kind ruler, you'll find. But anyway. So it's like I still don't do that much of like the little things, but dude, I'm moving big rocks like nonstop. When I see a big rock, I'm like, I'm killing it. That's mine.
Yeah, no, I mean, the studies are fascinating on it. There's tons of psychological studies that show that the more chores men do, typically the less sex they have. And it's a very interesting, it's kind of the opposite, right? We're told, oh, if you help out a lot, that'll happen. It does not play out that way. So we're seeing 60-70% of college graduates, doctors, lawyers are all female now. You have women that are just dominating men in terms of making money, in terms of leadership, all these things. So a lot of men are getting in the situation where their wives out earn them, where their wives are very powerful at work. And so I'm curious how that dynamic works in the home. Do you feel like a woman who is very powerful and leads a Fortune 500 company and makes all the money while the man stays home can be in a situation where the man is still the captain in that scenario?
Yeah, 1,000% yes. He almost never is from day one because they both fell into that dynamic on accident. Like she's used to, or even a school teacher. She doesn't even have to have a powerful position, but if she's used to like commanding all day long, hey, you stop, hey, you this. If she's got to run the ship at school, she comes home. It's a habit. It's not even necessarily sinister. It's not even necessarily like the evil feminist witch. It's none of that. It's
Men
just
do
like,
it too.
What's
We
that?
do it too. We do it too. Men do it
yeah,
too. It's not just
exactly.
It's hard to separate work. If you're a boss at work, it's hard to come home and not snap to what works at work,
Right. Yeah. George in the military, I tell this man to go and he goes. I tell this man to come and he comes. I tell my wife and daughter and they go, Daddy, you hurt my feelings. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, no, I put people to sleep at work and then I come home and I knock my kid out with gas. I think it's wrong,
right.
but it's just you can't separate.
Am I a bad father now?
He's so well behaved, dude. He's
That's
never
right. He
acting
just
out.
sleeps like a baby. It's great.
Daddy and mommy need some us time. It's like the wine moms at the gas station. It's gonna be 60 minutes on Dustin someday.
He's like, here, sweetie, does this smell like chloroform?
For those who can't tell, this is what's called humor.
Obviously.
Hi, Natalie. I'm still on this podcast. I told you, I'll unchain you at 11 o'clock.
You touched on something that was so true. Like my wife's a second grade school teacher. And so she's like, she just boom, boom, boom. You know, she structures the crap out of everything, and she's very forceful and very authoritative. And then she came home, you know, the first few years, and she was trying to. I said, honey, I'm not one of your kids at school. You need to slow that down, back it up a little bit. Let's talk through this. And we had to work through, when you get done with work, you got to turn that off, you know. And over, I'd say probably a year and a half, man, we got it nailed, and it made it so much better. But you have to be able to identify that, and that's such a good point. Is that it really can bleed off from work.
You have to be able to identify it and recognize, this is irritating. This is, brother, there's a word for it. It's disrespectful. You're allowed to say it out loud. You feel it, you should say it. You don't have to come guns blazing with her and go, you're disrespecting me. Like, in all fairness to her, what the heck? Like, we've been doing this for a decade, and all of a sudden tonight I'm disrespectful. So I shouldn't look at the chat.
Don't look at the chat.
I won't look at the chat anymore.
Highly professional here tonight.
I thought that when I said it.
No, you didn't. I saw your face. That's why I said so.
I looked away from the camera.
Oh, God.
Anyway,
Deep breath, everyone. We got this.
back in here. A wife at home who's used to running everything else. What do you do? How can you handle that? Yes, absolutely. You can have the polarity in your marriage. She can come in that door and go, like, I'm no longer the keeper. I'm being kept. You know, like, I have someone who cares for me. I'm so thankful to come and rest from what I've been experiencing today. And now I know I have a husband. I know I'm entering the greenhouse, and he is the greenhouse. He is the one who's sheltering from the storm. All day I had to be whatever, boss babe, which it's a whole different conversation of, can you and should you still be feminine at work as a woman? And the answer is yes, 1,000,000 times yes. But I don't coach women. So back to the bro, you've got to identify it, and then you got to have the courage to start standing up to it, which, by the way, almost always guys think, my wife won't follow me. Brother, family leadership starts with, for most guys, stop following. Forget leading. We'll get to that. But step one for many guys is stop following. It's simple stuff. It's the little and it's the big. It's when she says, oh, park here. I'm not parking there. Why didn't you park here? Because I didn't want to. I love you. Everything's going to be okay. Like, I don't give answers. I don't give explanations. Why? Because I'm a grown man, and I respect myself too much. And you might not. I can't make you. It's not control. But it is a fence. And you're going to start running into this fence. I'm not going to impale you on it, but you will run into it many times. You go, take this fence down. I go, I won't. You know, or all the little commands that come. Hey, do it. Load the dishwasher like this. I loaded it how I wanted to load it, baby girl. I got it.
I mean, after doing your program, on that example, very similar. That. Fold the towels like this, or what, you know, and I was just like, how about you ask me first? And
that's a great line. You could ask me a kind and
you're right.
question.
You're right. Honey, can you fold it? I'd love to, babe. Happy to.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. If you
that was something I learned. I mean, it's little, and I realized how often I would just not say anything, because I would never, if I treated her like that, it'd be met with instant rebuttal. You know what I mean? Exactly. So it's like,
what a monster.
It's basic stuff that we just take for granted nowadays, where it's like, it's simple respect that should go both ways. It's not. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, she's gonna feel my care. She's gonna feel a tenderness, so she can ask me a kind and respectful question. Baby, can I ask you something? Yeah, baby. Whenever you this, could you please this? And if I can, like, yeah, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. But I don't want her leading ever. I always want to be leading. When Natalie leads at all, I realize, first of all, I'm inspecting, did I fail here? Like, did I create a vacuum for her to step into? And then if I go, I didn't, this is like a unique scenario, and she's just stepping into leadership rather than a genuine surrender. And of course, George knows, we talk about this a lot in the voyage. The voyage, by the way, is like when you graduate, when you become an alumni, you can go into the voyage. But we talk a lot about how to guide your wife into her emotions, which most men want to run away from. Most men are deliberately always masculinizing their wives. What are you saying? Cut to the chase. Brother, you are destroying the feminine heart. You are hardening a woman, and you are ruining her soul. As opposed to, baby, tell me what you're feeling. Well, I feel like you're a jerk. That's not a feeling, baby. That's an accusation. You notice what she did there? She didn't actually give a feeling. A feeling is, I feel hurt. What did that require? Vulnerability. What does that require? Surrender. What does that also require? Trust. She doesn't have that. So she jumps to, I want the thing I want. This is why when we're driving down the road, she doesn't say, I'm frightened, which is, of course, if she said that, my foot is instantly coming off the gas and moving to the brake. But when she says, slow down, you're driving like an idiot, I'm going, ho, 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 ho. I am actually the greatest driver in the world. And I can go 30 miles an hour faster. Like, that's my ego, of course. That would be the wrong response. But hers was as well. Whereas Counselor Melvin is going to give her the pass, or Pastor Melvin's going to give her the pass. John Michael, you should have slowed down because she was afraid. Actually, she should have just said, I'm scared. In which case, loving husband goes, oh, baby, I don't want you to be afraid. Whew, slow right down. Now, can she use her feelings and weaponize them and try and control the outcomes? She could certainly try to. But again, like to my Christian sisters, that's where I say, welcome to submission, my sister. It's genuine surrender. It's not a trick. It's not a way to get, it's not a subtle way. It's not a feminine way to then control your husband. It's actual surrender. It's an actual giving up of the outcome, putting it in his hands, and then he chooses what he'll do. What if he doesn't do what I want? Welcome to submission, my sister. I don't know how you got to 40 years old and didn't ever know this. What did you think it was? Like, he has a head. Do you trust in his head? Yeah, I trust the Lord. You don't. And I get it. I have flesh, you have flesh. I'm not mad at you, but I'm mad for you because you have been robbed of peace. You have been robbed of surrender. You've been robbed of joy. You've been robbed of rest. And you've often robbed yourself because of your fears. You fear many things that are frightening, and therefore you seek to control. But if you would walk in surrender, well, if I don't pay the bills, he'll let the power go out. Honey, let it go out. Let that man feel the weight of his consequences. Your kids aren't going to starve, and y'all aren't going to freeze to death. Let him feel his weight. Now, I'm talking to women. Women aren't listening. I don't know where I'm going anymore.
Actually, half of our viewers, I think, are women. So
hey,
you're definitely yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's about 40-50% actually. Yeah.
But what's sad about that is that a woman will not let her husband lead and won't be submissive to her husband, but she'll turn around and go to work and she'll be submissive and let a man that she doesn't love or know, that just gives her a paycheck, lead her.
I'll help him in his mission. I'll give my life to him. I'll give 40 hours to him in his mission so he can buy his third house. But when I come home, I need some help around here. It's like, well, what happened to being his helper? I'm not going to serve no man. Yeah, except that you are.
Yeah, you're serving a master. It's just which one. That's interesting. Yeah. So what details specific, what does your day look like? If you said you're not doing chores, you're not, kind of being the Melvin in that sense. So are you educating the kids? Are you working on your programs? What does the day look like for you in that sense?
So full time, I'm doing the family captain. I'm also a pastor. So we planted our church 2.5 years ago. So those two roles are, really significant. And beyond that, but I mean, I'm having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Natalie and the boys. This is the office that I'm in here. So I'm at the house and I'm with them and I'm around them. I go to work out, but beyond that, I'm working with my guys. I'm coaching my clients, running the business, and, continuing to I can break away from work. I can do things. If I hear that the boys need more strength than she's got, I'm certainly all a part of that. But Natalie runs the household. She runs the dynamics of their day. She runs she oversees all that. That is authority delegated to her. So she has tons of authority that I've delegated to her. And then, we didn't do that in a formal way. It was just obvious. She's godly. She's capable. She's wise. She's wonderful. She's intelligent. She's a college grad. I'm a college dropout. So all that, she can do all the things, and I thank God for her because she's amazing. But she and I have such unity that.
Sorry, I'm just confused how you're running a successful business without a college degree. I can't really.
Yeah, I was supposed to be dead in the gutter, after I graduated.
You're not homeless? Okay.
Not yet.
Strange.
I don't know when that part happens, but my guidance counselor assured me it was coming.
Oh man, yeah. I just going through your program, my eyes were open to so much that we, really, we were taught wrong, and most of it came from the church, which is actually the most frustrating thing about it. That I grew up in the church and being taught all these things, saw it in my own family dynamics, and to your point earlier, there's a lot of secular sources that are getting it more right than the church. That's a problem. That needs to change today. It needed to change 30 years ago, but
I'm encouraged though, because I see more and more I'm seeing more and more of this kind of conversation happening in the body of Christ. I'm seeing more and more ministries. I'm seeing more and more coaches. I like, just anytime I hear the conversations, I'm just like, yes, if they're not against us, they're for us. And we'll take all the progress we can get with it.
Yeah, so I think that kind of jumps well into, how your influence has grown, and the amount of people that you're working with has grown. You're actually hosting a conference coming up. You want to talk about that a little bit, and what that all will entail?
Heck yeah, man. So in Nashville in September, 51 days as of this moment, um, September 14, 15, and 16. We're going to have Ryan Frederick. Oh, there it is, right there on Eventbrite. So you can go to Eventbrite, and if you just search the Family Captain on Eventbrite, you'll find it. But Ryan Frederick is going to join us. He is of fierce marriage. So he and his wife, Selena, they've been in the marriage ministry game for a long time now. And they're faithful believers, God-honoring Christians, and a lot of wisdom there. Dylan Davis, he is an alumni of the Family Captain Elite, and he's also the host pastor for the event. He's going to be speaking at the conference as well. And we're going to have a good time, man. So many of the guys in the Family Captain Elite have already signed up and are going to be there. But this is not just an alumni conference. This is definitely a come on, come all. Like, even your brother-in-law who doesn't know anything about anything but loves the Lord and he's married, then he should be there. And he'll go, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about this that way. Okay, that's different. I thought anybody who believed that verse, hated women. Like, oh, actually not. Man, they're talking about loving their wives well. So we're going to have practical stuff. We're going to have encouraging stuff. And then, of course, the fellowship that goes into the brotherhood when we're face to face there. We're going to have some real quality time, which we need.
I'm looking forward to it. I will see you there, and maybe I can rope some of these guys into making a quick little trip too. I think Brandon's going to be in Florida having vacation. I guess that's okay.
Mike can make it.
I'm upset about it, man. I was like, please don't be this week. Please don't be this week. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, it's the week. No. So it's okay, though. I will be there the following year.
The Lord will forgive you, and I'll try.
I think this is actually dovetails really well into an aspect that we've kind of touched on, but maybe not really from the lens of why it's so important as a leader of your family, is you can't just lead on your own. And you've got to have, brotherhood and fellowship. And so, for me, it's not just the guys on the podcast; it's the voyage. There's so many times where I'm struggling with something, or I need some, input from someone, and it's an older, wiser, maybe not older, a wiser man than me gives that guidance and helps me either get out of my own anger or frustration and look at things from a different light, and then I can lead my family better because of it. So, can you touch on, from your perspective, how critical that is, and where having that around you makes you a better leader? It's not just shouldering the world on your own.
Right. Well, I mean, it's because headship is a thing, just like parents, the mothers as well. Ladies, like, we don't just dump everything on our kids. If we're a loving parent, we don't go, you know what, I need you to be my friend right now. Like, that's selfish. There's a degree where we're trying to help them grow up, so there's an appropriate amount of something to share with them, but we can't be like, I don't know how we're going to pay these next bills, unless you're turning it into a let's pray and turn to the Lord and watch a miracle. That'd be a good thing. So parents know not to do that. A loving husband should trust his wife completely, but John Michael, my habit was to overshare. So this was a lesson that I had to learn. Like, that doesn't serve Natalie well. Well, I'm just being open, and I've been trained that I've got to communicate. Yeah, but look at the fruit, stupid. This is not a blessing to your wife. I know feminism told you to say everything because y'all are equal and same, but you're not the same. So lovingly take more burden on yourself. But then guys go, I guess I'll just keep it to myself. No, brother. No. 2 points here. You have a head. His name is Jesus. Ladies, of course, you have the Lord Jesus Christ as well. Your husband's not your high priest. So, again, listen to what I say, not to what I don't say. But then to my brothers, I would also say, and brotherhood, you need peers. So we certainly need somebody up the chain of command. And I have men in my life like that. My dad, is up the chain of command, my pastor. So the man I call my pastor, I'm not in his church, but um, he's one that's checking on my soul regularly. And I have plenty of men who I am guiding them and leading them and coaching them and blessing them. But I think the hardest piece to find is the peers, guys who are with you in multiple ways, guys who can be a bro, not just the wisdom, not just the maturity in the word, but also in whatever season of life you're in. But you need that. You need somebody who can relate. You need somebody who can go, hey, I feel you. I'm strong today, so you can be weak. Like, you can be feminine. You can vent. You can gush, and then I can correct and be like, hey man, all right, like, now let me remind you what's true. Let's get back on track. Whatever's needed, however I can guide you. But it's an epidemic that's missing. Most men have no friends. Most men are very closed off. But George, like you said, there's such value in having those peers. And then there's moments where you are the small fish in the big pond, where you're outclassed, where you're outmanned, and you should thank God for it. Where it crushes the ego, where somebody has got the word for you, and you're like, oh, I needed that, I knew that, but just go, man, receive that, because that's a gift, that's a blessing. Today it's their turn, maybe next time it's yours, but we were meant and built for fellowship. It's biblical, it's good, it's not normal for our modern day. But man, we feel it. And when you get in that kind of fellowship, when you get that peer to peer, the brother you can lean on, I mean, you see, like, you get glimpses of it in the word. You see David and Jonathan. You're just like, man, that is deep stuff.
Yep.
Can
Go ahead.
a man lean on and vent to his female friend? What's that look like?
No, I don't even believe men should have female friends. I don't want female friends. Now, there's women in my church who be like, aren't we friends? I'm like, yes, we're friends, but not like they're thinking. Like, I could be more friends with a dude halfway across the world than I could with a woman who lives next door. And if I can be good friends with a female, somebody's off in their polarity, her or me or both of us, because something's off here. And why am I so comfortable in the feminine environment? Why do I understand it? And it's good to understand it, but I need to be leading her out of it. But if I'm walking in masculinity, that creates the polarity. And by the way, polarity, of course, is going to increase attraction. So if there's zero risk of attraction, then there is zero polarity happening. So this is, there's a lot that could be said here. Oh, I guess all women are threats. No, that's nonsense. We reject that stupidity. Women aren't threatening or anything like that. But I don't want to hang out with women. I don't relate to women. Why? Because I'm not a woman. Because I believe that there's much more to gender than what's between our legs or what's on our chest. There's so much more. You have to be you have to have an evolutionary perspective to take this modern quasi-Christian perspective that says, can't we all just get along? Well, so we can certainly get along, and I care for the women in my life, but any women friends that I have, it's through the context of men. And as a pastor, even the women in my church, like, I love them as their pastor, but I'm never going to be like, I don't want to hang out with them. And it's not because I'm attracted to them or anything like that, but I'm just like, you're not a bro. Why would I even want to? It's a foreign concept.
Statement and then a question. Statement is, only another man knows the serpentine passages of your heart. Even your wife won't understand it in the same way. So that's why brotherhood is so valuable. Question, talking about, the lack of polarity. I've heard you talk a lot about, don't masculinize your wife. Don't treat her like a bro, which we do a lot. Can you talk about what that looks like and why that's so bad in your marriage?
Yeah.
And how easily guys are conditioned to do that.
Yeah.
Defeat her with logic, that kind of stuff,
Exactly. Yeah. It's where I'm making her defend herself to me. I don't ever want Natalie to have to defend herself to me. I want Natalie to feel super safe and super secure. So when she says something doesn't make sense, if I want clarity, I can seek clarity on it, but we're never at war. She's never my opponent. I'm always the one caring for her. If there's something I hear that I don't like, there's a way I can bring correction to that with gentleness. There's a way I can bring correction that, again, like husbands, love your wives. Do not be harsh with them. Why are all the commands to husbands to love their wives, and all the commands to wives are to submit and respect to their husbands? Well, it's because these is our temptations to sin against in that way, and this is also our design. We were built for this. But as men, we get frustrated. We treat women like flawed men, and women treat men like flawed women. Like, you got to get straight. You need to be more feminine. Actually, no. I just need to be more gentle with you. I don't need to be feminine. I need to be understanding. So it goes to that point, George, of not encouraging her emotions. Like, we recoil at all that, like, she's doing the girl thing. And instead of being the pillar that she can rest on and that she can trust in and say, hey, I'm going to be strong and I'm going to be here. I love you, baby. I'm sorry. This doesn't mean you can't fix stuff. So I don't accept that analogy either. It's like, sometimes she doesn't need you to fix stuff. She just needs you to listen. I'm like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to listen first, though. I'm going to be gentle and caring and figure out what was really needed here. And that's where a brother needs wisdom. He's like, I just want to fix the thing. Hey, homie, sometimes she just needed to get tears out. You did fix it, buddy. Well done, Captain. You fixed it. She needed to cry. It's been a month, and she just needed to cry about nothing. And you loved her, and you hugged her, and you kissed her, and you said, oh, baby, I got you. I got you, and God's got us. I still want to fix the thing. Bubba, you did. You just fixed it. That was it. The other thing isn't the thing. It's just that her internal world was worked up. But the more we masculinize our wife, we're like, what about this? Well, then why did Becky say that? Well, you need to text her and tell her this. Like, that's heavy. That's harsh. That's a lot of planning. And then the same way when we converse with her, I don't debate with Natalie. Like, Natalie's smart, Natalie's capable, Natalie's a thinker, all the things, yada, yada, yada. My wife is better than everybody's, and every listener and every lady listening. My wife surpasses them all, actually, truly, completely. And I treat her like a woman, and I don't want her to debate me. I don't want her to feel pressure from me. And I want to find ways to be gentle with her, but still lead her. I don't know, George, you got good insights here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just something that I kind of realized going through the program was it's a unique gift that I have that only I can give my wife to in those moments, like you said, right? Maybe she just needed to cry, and that's how you fix it. If I'm providing that to her, that is something that I'm providing to my wife that she can't really get anywhere else. Well, or shouldn't, So in many ways, men need to desire to provide that because it's strengthening your relationship way beyond the physical realm, right? It's a spiritual connection that's going to bear fruit for a long time. So that was a big unlock for me going through it.
That's a good point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just thought, I think a lot of what's happening with men who masculinize their wives is that if we don't have any male friends, we're seeking male companionship. And so we find it in our wives, and it doesn't really work, right? It feels empty. So that really clicked there for me, that the reason we do that is because we don't have enough male companionship. We don't have a male friend to talk to who understands us. So we lay things on our wives that aren't, maybe that's not the right thing to do.
We need that sparring. Men, that's normal. That's normal fellowship for me and a buddy on the back deck. We can fight and have a good time and make fun of each other's theology all in the process. Like, yeah, if you weren't such an idiot with this or that. And like, we're loving each other. And this happens in public school all the time. The little boys are picking on each other and goofing off. The friends are insulting each other. And the teacher's going, y'all stop it. You're being so mean to each other. It's like, can it go too far? Do they need leadership? Most definitely. But most of the time, it's dudes being dudes. Like, this is why men need their own sacred cultures where they can talk the way they talk without women going, y'all stop it. Or if women do say stop it, they need to be strong enough men to go, spoken like a woman. And then all the women go, ah! And you go, yeah, I said it. So anyway, back to what I was saying, making fun of your shirt. You look gay, bro. And everybody, and the guys are still having fun together and they still love each other. But you're right. When I'm starved for that, then I can easily, and I do this too, Dustin, where because I like the fight, not to be quarrelsome, but man, I need masculine culture around me, and if I have none of that, and the longer I go without it, the more I find myself needing to start to boil over. Not be aggressive with Natalie, but I get intense about something else. I could be, I'm like, babe, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But I'll start to see it in her body. and she's like, babe, like, you're intense. I'm like, I know, I'm not mad at you. So I know. And we're married 16 years now. So we both understand the dynamics. So she can tell me right away. She's like, hey, babe, this is too much for me. And I'm like, done, shut down. Why? Because I love my wife and I want to be gentle with her. Well, you weren't being mean to her. I was not at all. I was ranting about situation XYZ. And yet it wasn't serving her well. I was being the thing.
It's
I
just
was
like,
being the parent who needed his child to be his friend.
right.
I was being the husband.
What do you gain
who
from
was
doing that
doing
with
it
your
wrong.
wife, right? You're making her uncomfortable. And it's like, it's not going to benefit you. And I mean, last night we were on the back porch with friends, and I was getting a little, we were talking about some real stuff, and I'm an animated guy, and my wife was like, hey, honey, you're kind of making me feel uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, ooh, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I like totally, what I mean? She wasn't being mean. She was just being honest.
What an
And it's kind of,
excellent feminine way to say that. Praise God. I feel
yeah, but
uncomfortable.
it's a real example. It's like, what do I gain from like making the point that way, in that moment? I don't want to make my wife feel uncomfortable. I want her to feel safe around me. I should
I
be the
just want to
safest
point
person
this
on the
out,
planet.
though, for all the ladies listening. George's wife could have said, George, that's enough.
Mm.
That would have been disrespectful and unsubmissive. But instead she said, I feel uncomfortable. Now, what did that do? That surrendered. That submitted to George, who, of course, lovingly reeled in by his own choice because he loved his wife, rather than her fearing what is frightening and saying, George, that's enough of that. And him going, yes, dear. Because what are his options in that moment? He's not going to continue, but he's also emasculated at the same time. And no one wins. But instead, everybody wins. She gets to beautifully and in a feminine way go, I feel this. And he goes, oh, well, let me fix that. Let me give you the gift of my leadership because I love you.
Yeah. And the other side of that coin too is not just like masculinizing your wife, but it's also being overcritical. So like when you don't feel subconsciously or psychologically, you don't feel like you're in control, what do men do with their leadership, quote unquote, is they over criticize, they try to find flaw and project in other people, right? And so I feel like a lot of men don't just masculinize their wife, but they're also overly critical to their wife, and they shirk that, or they project that focus on them as well, like it's their
Brandon
fault.
Jones, that point he made about the 3-to-1 ratio, 3 positives to 1 negative,
love
was
that.
huge. That's like,
Yeah.
that's such a good template to follow in all your relationships.
Absolutely.
That's a great principle. I'd argue 10-to-1. For your wife, man, like, pour on the praise on that woman. Real and be real. And if you can't yet, we'll work on that. You can't be honest. You're like, what the heck? I like your left eye. I also like your right eye. It's two. Your ears
Your
are the
earlobes
best.
look so great.
I mean, maybe that's what Solomon was doing. He's just like, your neck is so great. It's like a tower.
Oh man,
Walking
Dustin,
by
I think you had a question. I don't know if you got to ask it about like friend groups. I think so. You wanted to.
Yeah, it seems like we have these natural hierarchies all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, college, where there's leaders, there's followers, sports groups, all of that. And then as we age, we kind of age out of these natural hierarchies. And if we do have friendships, they tend to just be a drinking buddy or someone that you might do an activity with, but there's not necessarily the same group dynamics, especially if someone's not in the church. So when you see kind of an ideal friendship group, what does that look like to you? Does that typically have, kind of a captain of the friends and then, or their followers, or what does that dynamic look like to you?
Well, ideal friendship group. I'll let you know when I'm in one and when I see one. So
You're in it
here's
right now, man, right here. No, I'm just kidding.
so right now I'm just a theorist, but yeah, I don't think the hierarchy vanishes, but I think it gets harder to see, and I think it's fine. I think when you're younger, though, there's so much more ego involved. So it's so much important to younger men and to boys in particular, like, I'm the leader. No, I'm the leader. Like, the whole club is nothing but the president, and they don't even have a club, but as long as they have a president, it's like, okay, but I get to be the president next week. Like, what do we do? Well, we have presidents. That's what we do. That's why we exist, so that we can each feel good about ourselves. So as you get older, men appreciate respect from one another. So many men are starved for respect that I think we do a good job. I see more and more men doing a good job respecting one another. This is why we have this language of, I see you, king. Let's go, killer. Like, what is that? That's the language of respect. Like when we see each other in the gym, Like when you see somebody, pushing heavy, even if it's not a lot of plates, and you see he's struggling, you're like, he finishes that set, you're like, let's go, baby. Like, what is that? We understand, like, it's respect. That's what we're giving. So I think in a masculine friendship relationship, and you got a group of guys or anything like that, it's not important necessarily so much who the president is, although I think probably intrinsically people can still feel where rank is. I know when men outrank me. I was having a conversation recently about a man who outranks me, but I say that with no problem with it. Like, it's a fact. There's guys who outrank you. Well, in what way? Like, I don't know. You just know. Like, I haven't quantified it.
I think it can be
you can
dynamic
tell.
too, right? Like if someone's a master mechanic, I'm not going to try and go toe to toe with all of his knowledge. I'm going to be
Oh,
like, hey
heck
man,
yeah.
teach me.
Exactly.
I'm a sponge. Let me
Subject
soak
matter
it up.
starts to matter.
Yeah. So I think men are a little fluid in that regard too, where it varies on like the setting. And I think that's a great thing too, is you want a wider range of friends who have different skill sets and things like that, because it just betters you all if you're willing to humble yourself in the right moments to learn from that guy who knows it, or what I mean. It's just I think like once you're past your late 20s, age almost doesn't matter for men. I mean, I find myself in circles all the time where we're hanging out, and it's the age gap is 20, 30 years between the youngest and oldest in the group, and everyone's like buddy and talking about what they excel at and what they've learned, and it's just kind of everyone's getting better. It's not a I don't think you have to check a block, right? We didn't need a leader to gain from that interaction.
And that makes you a much better man, George. I mean, I see so many men who will only hang out with other men that are within the same age range. And I think they're really missing out by not having that wisdom from older men. So I'm glad you have that.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, it's one of those things, like when ego's not present, masculinity thrives. So, I mean, if you leave your ego at the door and you have that group of friends or that hierarchy or whoever where you have respect for each other, if there's no ego there and ego present, then you're going to have a thriving environment to learn from each other, to gain a lot of knowledge from each other, wisdom, share things, all that stuff. So
Yeah, masculine culture, they take turns submitting to one another, but not in a measured way. You just roll with it because there's a trust, there's a care, there's a confrontation culture as well, and masculine culture. To back to Dustin's question, like what else needs to be present? So there's this respect for everybody. There's this, okay, it's time to submit to him today, or just in this moment. Hey guys, when you do this, do that. And he can give instruction on the hunting trip, or he's given clarification on the working on the engine, or even just picking what movie we're going to see tonight. Like, you can roll with it, and you can complain about it too and give him a hard time after the movie sucked. You can be like, wow, Woman King, really? That was what we had to see tonight? No,
yeah, Dustin, why do we go see Barbie, man? God.
Why do we have to go see Barbie?
It was Barbenheimer.
Dustin,
yeah, Barbenheimer. Why are you wearing a pink shirt? I'm not.
I would love to see that movie
Cloud,
where they drop a nuke on Barbie Land. That sounds interesting.
But the other point is the culture of confrontation. Whereas feminine culture, Michael Foster says it well. He says women compliment one another and they don't mean it. Men insult one another and they don't mean it. And all the ladies are like, that's not true. And we're like, yes, it is. Now, obviously, he's talking about a generalization, not the godly woman who's not going to do that kind of behavior, but as a generalization. But masculine culture, we're always course correcting. Why? Because our masculinity matters. So this is why, we will tease and poke at the things that are a little bit effeminate. You've got enough points with the group. We have enough capital with one another to know that we're masculine men, or for whatever that social group is. Like, in some groups, that's probably way too low. But in some groups, it's like, hey, everybody here is a bro, and that's okay. So anybody takes a little step in the wrong direction, and he is wearing a pink shirt, like, oh man, like, we're making fun of him forever now over the pink shirt. Not that we care, but it's just like, why not? Because it's fun. So we'll take whatever pot shots we can take, or like, hey, nice shirt. Do they make them for men?
Where'd you get that? The Baby Gap,
Yeah, whatever. Like, if something doesn't fit him well, or he does his hair in a new way, like, we just make fun of it. He's like feeling good about himself today, and we're like, oh, that's cute. You're gonna get frosted tips next week, and and of course, you're always. And to women, this is super confusing. They're like, I thought you said you respect each other. I'm like, we do. This is why we challenge each other. We're keeping one another sharp. We're saying, hey, like, I got to trust you for everything, and I want to trust you for everything. So you're not feminine, are you? And we answer back, no, I'm not feminine. And we go, okay, like, then I'm fine with the thing that you did, or the thing that you said, or the way you always hold your drink like that. Like, we don't care. It's just funny to pick on you, and we keep one another sharp and strong that way.
It's kind of funny too, though, because like in masculine culture, we'll talk about a lot of things that are like very personal or that really matter, but it's completely different than like what your wife is expecting you get out of that. Like she'll be like, "How's Justin?" or whatever, and I'm like, "I don't know. Should I know?" Like, well, didn't you guys just talk for an hour? Yeah, about
Weren't y'all
like the
sitting there for 7
podcast.
hours?
Like, I, what do you think I'm asking him about? Like, I'm not his. I don't know. I'm not his mom. Like,
Call his mom if you want to know how he's doing.
and she's always so baffled by like, I have no idea, babe. Like, I have no
I'm
idea
gonna
how
call
they're
Whitney
doing
and
that.
be like, he doesn't
Like, how
care
you know?
about
I know
me.
they got the infant on the way. How are they doing with the?
My problems.
I've got a good story with this. So another couple and I and Natalie were hanging out years ago, and this was me and this bro were best friends at this time, and Natalie and his wife, they were pretty close too, but me and him were hanging out in front of the girls, and I don't know, just being ourselves. Well, we get in the car to leave, and we're driving down the road. And Natalie's like, "I think you really hurt Jonathan's feelings when you said, whatever." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, are you sure?" And this was early on, so I'm like, I think I'm assuming I'm like, I don't want to assume she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I'm like, I pick up the phone and call Jonathan as we're driving down the road. I was like, "Bro, I wanted to tell you, man, when I said this, that, and the other, I did not mean anything by that. I love you. I respect you. I was just goofing off. If that bothered you in any way, man, I was sincere. I wasn't like, if you got a problem with that, you're weak. Like, none of that. I was just humble. I was under him entirely. And he was like, "Are you serious right now?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Don't you ever apologize to me ever again." And I was like, "Babe, I told you. I knew he was fine."
Nice job, Melvin.
You're getting attached to the cellar tonight. You're sleeping up there.
I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Back to the water heater."
Well, I think there's a very important distinction though too, is that yes, men love to tag and make fun of each other, but there is a difference between that and men who pull you down and who are toxic. I've dealt with that in the past, and if you have a growth mindset and they don't, or if there's something in your life they know you hold dear and they constantly mock and disrespect there's a big difference between that and then the fun clashing. So if you have that in your life, please recognize the difference and be able to discern the two. I think that's such an important thing for men, especially for their mental health. It's a big deal when your group of guys are just, "Hey, I've got this great idea," and they're like, "No, it's trash. Shut up."
Yeah, you shouldn't be the punching bag of the group.
Yeah, or they're mocking your
that's not
religion,
respect.
or like they're doing something that they know gets under your skin, and they do it anyways because they think it's fun. Like, that's a different type of brotherhood that you don't need to be in. So,
And I'll tell you what, I watched that happen to you for a good minute.
It's not brotherhood.
And it pissed me off. And I kept asking Brandon, I'm like, "Brandon, dude, these guys are not playing with you. Like, they legit are just terrible people. Like, you need to cut them away." And that's a hard thing to do. You get comfortable with people and you think you can't replace those people. You can absolutely replace somebody if they're not a good person for you. And I watched Brandon, and it was just like, it broke my heart because Brandon's so good to these people, and he gave them everything, and these people just crapped on him. And I'm like, I was the one that got angry. I was like threatening them. I was like, "You want to mess with my twin?" Like, but and then I later grew up and realized that wasn't the right response. But it sucks to see good people go through that, and you will go through that if you're not willing to cut those people free. You just got to let them go and find someone better. There's better men out there.
It falls back to having the fence, like John Michael was discussing earlier. You have to have a fence, and when people cross it, you have to say, "Hey, that's not okay." And I didn't do that, so a lot of that was on me, and a lot of it was also me giving grace, but I was giving grace in an unhealthy way. So once I learned how to properly do that and set those fences up, I realized that it wasn't going to stop, and then I had to address it in a real sense. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. We notice that in Jesus. A manipulator could come to him and go, "You came to give your life, so let us throw you off the cliff." Well, they tried to throw him off a cliff. He wouldn't let them. They wanted to stone him to death. He also would not let them. "I thought you came to give your life as a ransom for many." He laid down his life. No one took it from him. So that's another distinction in these friend groups, like Brandon's saying. If you're like, "Oh, well, the guys are always joking with me," hang on, brother. Do they also respect you? Do they also give to you? Is there a give and take? The friendship has give and take. Marriage has give and take. It's not just given and give and be taken from. So if they're joking with you, that's one thing. But if you are the joke to them, then these are toxic. These are wicked people, unrighteous, that should be abandoned entirely without regret, just like Jesus did. He didn't allow himself to be manipulated. You can give generously as a choice, but not have things extracted from you. And we see that constantly. Everybody wanted to trap him. They wanted to make him say things, wanted to make him do things. He always did it his way. Still very generous, very Christ-like, and yet he never obeyed anyone's instruction and expectation for him. That, hey, if you love us, if you like this, do this, say that, make this happen. He's going, no, I won't. I will never obey your terms. I'll always give to you. I'll always provide for you. That's a loving leader. He had his fence. He had his framework. He had his purpose.
All right. Well, I wanted to let you plug a little bit more on where people can get engaged with you, John, Michael, if they are curious about the coaching, or should they jump in the Facebook group first or go straight to the website? What's the best way to do this?
Well, these people are podcast listeners, so if they want to check out the podcast, that's probably the best place to start for them, the Family Captain
Okay.
podcast. And then, yeah, if you're a husband and you're married and you love the Lord Jesus Christ, then you can get into the Facebook group. We'll let you in there. Lots of free content, lots of helpful stuff going on there. We got over 3,000 dudes in there right now, so that's cool. And then, of course, you can just go to thefamilycaptain.com, and depending on what you're thinking, what you're feeling, if you're saying, I want to get on the fast track and I actually want to hear more about the elite program, you can click that coaching tab, and then you can book a call and we can see where you're at. We'll talk about where you're at, where you're looking to go, and getting you on the fast track, moving forward to the next level so that you can thrive, so that your wife can thrive, so your kids can thrive, really can walk in God's best. So check it out. Hit me up. I would love to connect. We got multiple ways. We got multiple layers of brotherhood. Like I said, that free group is the outer perimeter. You can get as close as you want. You can come in. We got a monthly subscription that we open up every 4 or 5 months that people can get into. But then the elite program is open at all times for those who are qualified for it.
Yeah, and I'll just, as a personal, success story through the program, I highly recommend that. Even if you think you're doing pretty well in your marriage, you think you've got a pretty good handle on things, look through it and consider working with him, because I know for me, I know what I'm doing, and learned pretty quickly. There's a lot I didn't know I was doing. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn from John Michael, and I think the thing that makes this really stick out from probably a lot of other programs is, again, I think it's one of his strongest gifts is being able to really look into everyone's specific situations and understand all the details and the context around that, and give extremely practical advice for how to navigate those different situations. And his coaching is, I believe it's inspired by God, and that he's not just doing what John Michael wants. He's listening to the Spirit and sharing that wisdom with you. So can't say enough good things about going through the 12-week program. It definitely benefited me significantly, and I'm just one of how many guys have gone through it now, John Michael?
Man, maybe 175 or so at this point.
So almost
Probably through the elite
200
program.
now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people have benefited from it. So give him a follow on Facebook and check out the group. And if you're curious, go through those. The free videos that you have up there are all very, very good, and the podcast. So, John Michael, any closing thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
I just tell everybody, go listen to the podcast episodes where Natalie is present, because I joked multiple times about her being chained to the water heater. But I want to make sure people know, like, Natalie's the real proof, like, this guy's blowing his own trumpet, but is his wife actually thriving? And you can make your own determination there. Like, is this a social media marriage, or is this woman actually thriving in the presence of the Lord? And is this a flourishing household? So go make those judgments. It'll be pretty obvious. And then what did you say, George?
Just if you, I guess, if you had any closing thoughts
Oh,
to
yeah.
end the
I'll
episode with.
reiterate what I said earlier. First of all, thank you, brothers. I love being with you guys. It's a joy. Thank you. And it makes me happy, both at the same time. But to reiterate the point
I have
talked
that effect on people. It's okay.
about, to make the point again
No, he
from
doesn't.
earlier, the bigness, the beauty, and the glory of what's possible. We haven't begun to scratch the surface, and there's just so much more. So I've seen marriages in crisis, and I've seen marriages that, again, were like mine. That's who the elite program certainly was built for. It's like, things are good, things are fine. I'm satisfied. I'm telling you, don't be. Be thankful for where things are, but be hungry, because God has so much more. We have so much more than what we've been fed by culture. It can get so much sweeter. If you say, man, mom and dad were a great example, praise God, but don't stop. And you don't need the family captain. Like, do it on your own. That'd be great too. But do not stop. Whatever level you would assess and say things are at, contend for the next one. Why does it matter? Well, it's not just about your happiness. It's about the mission of God in the earth. Marriage is supposed to be the picture of Christ and his church. So the world should be able to look into your marriage, and the world should be able to look into your household and say, what is that? And you say, this is what Jesus and the church is like. So they can go, okay, sign me up for that. And so that your kids can go, man, look at what mom and dad have. Look at what our household is. Like, to turn away from this would be beyond stupid. It's not like, well, I was raised one way, but it's also enticing. No, it's not. It would look like a feast at the table of the Lord compared to eating out of a porta-john when your children have been raised in the presence and the glory of God, where the masculine and the feminine are happening, and your daughters get to be raised as daughters, and your sons get to be raised as sons, and they see daddy and mommy loving each other, and they know that the presence of the Lord is in their household, not just the principles of God, but the presence of God. It is worthy. It is a worthy calling, and it is the high calling. It is the thing. What am I supposed to do with my life? Brother, this is it. Are you married? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, your answer gets real simple. You get to build a thriving, righteous, godly family culture that affects 1,000 generations. So keep contending for it.
Amen, brother. I love
Hey,
it.
and listen, I have to say, if you're going to listen to his podcast, I would definitely check out Salt Church as well. He has his sermons on there, and man, brother, I listened to your Apostles' Creed series, and it was so fantastic. And then the submission series was fantastic as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And if you're a sermon nerd like myself, man, check out the Salt Church stuff, because
Praise
you're
God,
doing
man.
great
Well,
work, man.
I'll go a little bit further and say that every married Christian man needs to listen to the series you did called Ecstatically Married, and then listen to it first, and then listen through it with your wife.
Yep.
It is
Amen.
very, very good. I think level sets for a lot of people.
The chat.
The chat again, man. We're gonna get through this episode. We're gonna get it.
Thanks again.
Brandon really likes submission. No, that seriously though, the Ecstatically Married is gonna level set a lot of things for your marriage. That especially if you kind of grew up in a wishy-washy church setting where they didn't really clearly define husband and wife roles very well.
And I will say, ladies, the podcast can be a bit triggering. The Family Captain podcast, and the reason for that is it was all what's there now anyway. As the time of this recording, what's there now is it was all recorded in the Facebook group. So I was bro talking to bros. So if it comes across as like crass, I'm sorry. I don't intend for it to. If I had known I was eventually going to share it with the larger audience where my grandma would be able to hear it too, I would have done some things differently. And I've grown in wisdom over the past few years with this whole conversation. I've definitely gone too far, and I've repented for that. But at the same time, like, I'm going to bear the shame of it instead of removing the whole thing and be like, no one should ever hear that. Like, there's plenty of gold there. If you can get over John Michael's personality getting in the way, then it'll bless you.
Sounds good, man. Well, yeah, the sermons are great. I just wanted to encourage you and say that I appreciate you. It's always such a pleasure to have you on the cast. So,
thank you, brothers.
Yeah, John Michael, it truly is a pleasure, and I appreciate you, working with me through your program and then coming on the show here tonight and working with us.
Thanks, Jay Money.
God bless you.
All right, enough talk, dads. We'll see you in the next one. Get climbing that mountain. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Present Fathers Podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify to catch all of our amazing episodes. We will see you in the next one.